Hello, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll talk about the religion known as Kel'nakavanism. This is a religion different from Aquadome, in which this is primarily focused on the worship of a Demesis rather than a lord. Now, I'll get into a future video about the different terms, Demesis, lord, etc., etc. But in the meanwhile, let's begin. So, Kel'nakavanism, or just Kel'nakism, is a religion which requires the worship of the Orgish. In particular, most worship a figure known as the Orgish King. Many others decide to worship the second Orgish King, who we will talk about later. Orgishes are monsters, typically humanoid, that are a clump of flesh and organs. The Orcish king is said to have originated from the lands in western Dunnerland, and would eventually, anywhere from 1500 to 1000 of the first era, well, not, you know what I mean, the numbers. I mean, 15,000 to 10,000 of the first era formed the first Orcish Empire. Practices. Some common practices of the religion include frequent sacrifices. So, sacrifices are done differently. A quick history is that their version of a sacrifice is feeding people alive to orcishes, and then they will feast on whatever remains of their corpse after. After the orcish is satisfied. Constant worship. With most other religions, you gotta constantly worship the god. Oftentimes, this is the first orcish king, some people worship the second orcish king, etc., etc. Inflicting oneself with orcish disease. This isn't a too common of a practice, but it is a major one which some people in the religion can participate in. Fun fact, it is a common practice for new converts to be sacrificed. A new convert is essentially someone who has one, either recently joined the cult, or two, was kidnapped and forced into the cult. There's a third there's a third option for what people consider a new convert, and those are basically like prisoners who were forced into service, who were forced into kind of being a cult sacrifice. There are also those who are coerced, yeah, that's what I'm looking for, and many others. But those are largely the new recruits whom are sacrificed. Fun fact, only people with high status and who have worshipped the religion most of their life have are the ones who infect themselves. So only like priests and shamans and so people like that would really infect themselves with orcish disease, and this is seen as kind of like an honorary thing to do as you're becoming one with the monster you are worshiping. Another final fun fact, many people still die trying to tame orcishes. Many people think that taming orcishes is what you do, but you have to summon them because orcishes are very hard to tame. What do they believe in? Some of what most orcish believers worship, I mean, some of what most of the orcish worshippers believe in are that orcishes are dominant hunters of the wild. People should be dominated through sheer force. People should be seen as tools, necessary but replaceable. And some of these beliefs are pretty common amongst the plenty of religions, so to speak. The Orcish king will return one day and reclaim his empire. Anyone not of the religion needs to either be dominated or sacrificed. So essentially, you either become a tool for their use or you will just be killed by being eaten alive. They follow a very strict hierarchical class, with new recruits, or sometimes they're called low rankers, seen as the tools of the religion. New rankers and low rank, new recruits and low rankers are basically for them clumped up together as just tools. And that's how they very much see most people as a pawn in chess, for example. They are willing to sacrifice as much of these tools as they can just as long as they get their desired product. And finally, they are destined to become orgishes once they die. So this is like, especially with turning oneself into a conscious orgish, which is something they do. And this is very much an honorable thing for these people to do. Who is the Orgish King? The Orgish King was an Orgish who is said to have created the first Orgish Empire. The empire, in the legends, spread across the entire West and is considered the glorious days by many worshippers. He is said to have been a legendary warrior, a powerful mage, and a wise king. He is also said to have many other perfect traits on him, as most religions do to whoever they worship. To most people of the religion, the Orcish king is their god, one worthy of praise. Fun fact, Kel'nakavanism is quite a divided religion. There are many sides of the religion, and some of them are more radically different than others. In fact, what I don't tell you is that, well, I've already told you, there's a good group of people who worship the second Orcish king, who I'll talk about later. The Orcish women. The Orcish women is a celebration of female Orcishes that most of people of the religion celebrate. The day includes huge feasts and many sacrifices of men to female Orcishes, along with a huge, several-hour-long worshiping season of, typically, the Orcish king. Orcishes can reproduce, though it is quite uncommon. Ritual summonings. As part of the religion, the old recruits of the religion will typically perform rituals, often with the help of conjurers, aka people who have mastered their life to the magical arts of conjuration, which is summoning foreign creatures and that stuff. They often summon ancient Orcish deities from legends, including Hrothgesh, a legendary warrior under the Orcish king who was also his son, Hrothgesh, a famous flesh tree who is said to be wise and the first flesh tree, and so on. They often summon these deities for guidance or to give praise to them in person. According to the religion, Hrothgesh was the first Orgistry. He was in Etmor, serving under the king until he was slaughtered before his organs were made into a seed that would later become a flesh tree, according to the legends. And now we get to the best part, history. Back in the days of old, in somewhere around the years 15,000 to 10,000 of the first era, the first Orcish king, as he'd later be known, had gotten a curse from the Lord of Curses and Corruption, Drakul. Drakul casted the curse on the man, who was named Belmoth at the time due to his disloyalty after pledging it to Drakul. This curse left Belmoth with no skin, but his brain was intact. He could feel his sensitive flesh and organs, and he wanted to die. However, Belmoth retreated into a cave. He learned how to use magic He trained for over 30 years before emerging from the cave as a warrior, more specifically, a spell sword. Essentially, someone who uses both magic and weapons, but focuses more on their weapons than their magic. In the legend, he goes on to kill Drakul before resurrecting him to cause shame on him, which was sometimes a common practice for gods to do. Anyway, afterwards, he went back to Duneland and made a deal with the king of Solga, which was the dominant kingdom of the area. The Orcish king, who named himself Hera Hashkoth, got to rule over a small bit of land in the west of the kingdom as a vassal. However, as he went over to claim his new land, he was kidnapped by a group of people dressed as octopi, where he was brought before his king. There, the king of Solga cut Hera Hashkoth's throat and tortured him for over a year. Finally, Hera Hashkoth broke from his chains and slaughtered his captives like animals. He then captured the king and became the king of Solga himself. However, he decided to spare the king of Solga and let him run away. This caused the king of Solga to attack with an army, and Hera Hashkoth was defeated. In this battle, he had hired neighboring tribesmen who would leave him due to the failure. However, he would use his magic to resurrect the dead, placing the curse that was originally placed on him on the dead bodies, and thus turning them into Orcishes. The dead bodies soon fused with the rotten diseases that commonly came with dead corpses, and thus the Orcish disease was born. With his new army, he went on to reconquer the Solga lands. Would reconquer the Solga lands before feeding the king of Solga to his soldiers. This was before he went on a series of rapid conquests around the entire western part of Dunnerland, which created the First Orcish Empire. In this time, he began to see trees growing on the former battlefields, which gave him an idea. He took the blood of himself and 200 of his men, and then he grabbed the heart of Holkgesh and then planted it in the ground before having a son with a female Orcish, who he named Rothgesh. He had a second son named U Urkagv with a different female Orcish. And on the right it shows the map, a legendary map of the first Orcish Empire at its peak, anywhere from negative 15,000 to negative 10,000. Eventually, he went on to go on through a series of brutal conquests, using brute force to subjugate the neighboring kingdoms and empires. Finally, he died in battle before his empire died off. However, in anywhere from 8,000 to 5,000 of the First Era, one of his sons would create the Second Orcish Empire. His name was Clucano, and he is said to be the ancestor to the first Orcish king, but double in every way. Wait. His name is Kuklano, and he is said to be his ancestor, the Orcish king, but double in every way. He recreated the empire, bringing it back to its former glory. Many people of the Kel'nakavan religion dispute this part of history. Some will claim that he simply stole the ideas from his ancestor and would go on to basically form the Second Orcish Empire. Others say that the first Orcish Emperor, king, time traveled into the future. There's many different theories that these people have on the first and second Orcish empires. And now let's get to the pure facts. As with most religions, Kel'nakavanism has some truth to it. Fun fact: Cthulhu's large piles of flesh with a giant eyeball in the middle, which are typically stuck on walls in isolated or rotting places, are said to have originated from a dead orgushes clumped up together, with the eye of Hashkoth being placed in it after he died, which, according to the legend, caused the formation of the Cthulhu. Truth. Hashkoth existed. The Orcish king was a real person. There was an Orcish empire. Hashkoth did form the Orcish Empire. However, the story is a bit different. He never spared the king of Solga, for example. The Orcishes did come from a mix of disease and blood. The blood is apparently Hera Hashkoth's own blood. In the actual reality, it wasn't his blood, but that's kind of how it worked. Hera Hashkoth did believe in total brutality and was a brutal conqueror even for his time. Okay, I should clarify on the Orcishes came from a mix of diseases and blood. You see, it was like a weird mixture between the blood and the disease. And it was kind of like a magical experiment that was done all the way back in the ancient times. It was not done by Hera Hashkoth. In fact, Hera Hashkoth was alive thousands of years after Orcishes were created. Falsehoods. Solga did not exist. Everything about the kingdom of Solga did not exist. The first Orcish Empire was actually quite small compared to the legends. Hashkoth did not create the Orcishes. He was never cursed. In fact, instead of that, he was killed before being brought back to life by a mix of magic and Orcish disease. He did not kill Draco. He was a magic born, and so in his early days, he never trained with magic. He never had to train with magic because a magic born is essentially somebody who is given basically a high amount of magic for free. And they get to learn magic a lot faster than everyone else. A magic born is essentially someone destined to have a high amount of magic power, essentially. And that's it. I appreciate each and every one of you spending a part of your time to watch my videos. I know this was a bit longer than usual, and I've been not uploading for the past 2 weeks, I believe. And I also apologize to any newcomers for my heavy stuttering and kind of, well, mispronunciations of words, and I'm trying to improve on that. Anyways, I hope each and every one of you has had a good day or night. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. I particularly like the comments, and I also like it when I get votes on my community posts whenever I get them, or when people just check them out. Anyways, that's it. Have a good day or night, and I'll see you guys another time.